and want to have something to look at. All right, cool. So we're here on YouTube now. That's fantastic. Let's see. Which one looks good? A little too active. I like that one. That one gets your attention, right? Cool. All right, welcome everybody. So as we get started here, we're going to start off with our favorite activity called the simultaneous squeeze, which is a way that you can stimulate your vagus nerve naturally, all by yourself. So how it works is we're going to take a deep breath in through our mouth just to fill our lungs up, and then at the very end of that breath, we're going to take a big deep sip, like an extra sip of air. Then you're going to hold it and squeeze it through breath retention, and then you're going to bear down like this and hold it for 5 seconds. It's going to cause an increase in your vagus nerve, and you're going to get kind of dizzy, and it can feel really good. So, ready? Let's do this. The simultaneous squeeze in 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. Sip. Hold. Squeeze. And exhale. Very good. Very good. Okay, so that's the process of stimulating your vagus nerve very simply. Very, very, very easily. It can cause this kind of like this rush over your body. You're like, ooh, I feel really relaxed all of a sudden. That's interesting. Now, if it's your first time doing that and it feels a little too much, you'll get better at it as you go. So just keep on coming up to these lives, and we'll develop that as a very good skill set. So what are we talking about today? Today's subject is, I think, is pretty important, since a lot of people are evaluating if they want to, buy a VNS, if they want to join a program, etc., etc. People are kind of in that space of learning about what do they want to do? What do they want to sign up for acquiring a vagus nerve stimulation solution in their health, let's say. Now, key thing here to remind ourselves of is that when making an important decision such as this, you're going to basically potentially be putting a device up to your vagus nerve that's going to be changing your actual vagus nerve's function on a consistent and daily basis. Because anything with vagus nerve stimulation that's effective long term is going to be consistent. That means every single day. So you're going to have to find something that you're going to stimulate your vagus nerve with for maybe months, if not maybe years. And that's not a bad thing. I do believe that somebody who really wanted to get to high levels of consciousness and function in their mind, in their brain, in their spirit, are going to want to stimulate their vagus nerve consistently, especially potentially with the device, for a few years. Maybe 2 to 3 years on average is about the right window. Maybe 18 months at minimum. Most people should start with 3 to 4 months to start, to see, how can they really give ultrasound or vagus nerve stimulation a good shake, so to speak. How can they really experience it for real? And give it a chance, give it an opportunity to do the work that it's supposed to do. So, what I see with a lot of these tools and these devices that people are being sold to on Facebook is that they're just like, here's a device, use it. There's no start date except for when you buy it, and there's no end date to it either. And what should I expect? Oh, I should sleep better. But have you ever asked yourself what's really changing under the surface when you stimulate your vagus nerve? If you haven't asked yourself that, this video will answer those questions. What are you tangibly changing about your body that is making you feel better when you do vagus nerve stimulation? And the things that are changing are going to be involved with your personality, your sense of self, your ego, your mental capability, your ability to remember things. All of those subsystems of your brain are going to start improving. And we all know that it's important to develop skills in tandem. If you're going to, let's say this, if I were going to teach a child martial arts, I might want to consider teaching that child a little bit of self-discipline at the same time. Because if you teach a 10-year-old boy to learn how to properly hit another kid, I probably want to teach that kid also a little bit about human compassion, mercy, patience, self-discipline, emotional regulation, that kind of stuff, right? Put a 1 in the chat. If I were going to upgrade the skill of someone, it might be a good idea to consider what other skills they need to learn at the same time. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree. I definitely agree that that's important. So if we're going to stimulate the vagus nerve, we need to make sure that, yes, thank you, Charlene. So if we're going to stimulate the vagus nerve, it's important that we teach a couple of corollary skills, and we teach those skills in different tiers and progressions. Sort of the same way if you went to school, if you went to a college degree program, you would learn skills from day 1, month 1, year 1, 5 years, 10 years. There are things that you learn and you specialize as you go. And we all know that in life, it's important to reinvest in continuing education, right? Like, if you just went to high school and were like, great, I did all the teaching and learning that I ever need to do. No, that's definitely not the case. So with vagus nerve stimulation, it's going to be very important that you develop this sense of continuous improvement of your ability to learn, of what you're learning and what you're doing on a consistent basis. I really wish that Facebook would not be so laggy, because it's hard for me to even look at this. Why is this happening? I have a little thing I'm going to change, and then we're going to do that. Custom buffer size, we'll say it's 300. 390, apply, boom, doom, bam. Yeah, that's just not going to change anything. Cool. So where do you start on the vagus nerve journey? If someone came to me and they said, I'm having some symptoms in my body that are unpleasant, I would first send them here to this website. Check the symptoms of vagus nerve dysfunction. VegusHub.com/symptoms. So if somebody said, Sterling, I'm not feeling so hot, what would you recommend? I would say, well, first check yourself against the set of symptoms that you might be experiencing. And then they go there and they go, oh my God, there's a lot on that list that I'm having. That must mean that I have something wrong with my vagus nerve. Then I would do a call with them. And the call would be here. Then we schedule a 10-minute game plan call. go.oncehub.com/Vegas10, just like that. So they schedule a game plan call. We hop on the call. We talk. I get some deeper information. I go, okay, what's really happening? Why did this start? What have you tried? What do you think is keeping you where you are? What's at stake if you don't get to where you want to go? And what is possible if you do get these improvements in your health? And based on their answers, I'm able to determine if I'm able to help them or not. And if I'm not able to help them, I'll turn them to the right person. If I can, then I'm going to tell them how I would help them. Most likely, for most people, I'm going to send them to something called Next. If they are compatible, I will send them to phase 1. And that's here, VegusHub.com/phase1. Very simple, very straightforward, very easy, very, very easy program. All the information is written there. So I usually like to start people with a phase 1 coaching program at first. Then after they've done about 4 months, they're back online. Their brain is working the way it needs to. The brain fog has lifted. that's then when I go, okay, cool. So strategically speaking, of course you want to continue to do the things that you've done in the program, but there are some specialty things you can do now with learning about your memory and developing a visual memory and being smarter and having better time management and using more vagus nerve stimulation technology, like upgrading your technology. So that's phase 2. So that's fun. That's a multi-month program as well. Now, part of the reason for training someone's memory is because of what we do in phase 3. And I'll post the link as well for phase 3. So Vagus, phase 2 leads into phase 3. Learn more on phase 3 here. VegusHub.com/phase3 opt-in. So if you want to learn about phase 3, you have to sign up for updates. It'll email you 4 different videos. It's called Project Lotus. Lotus stands for Low Intensity Ultrasound. So it's a meditation program that does ultrasound stimulation of the vagus nerve in your ear with a special custom device that we've made for each client. So that project is actually live, and we're starting it this week. So I'm really excited about that. Most of you watching will not be signing up for that, but we're just, again, giving you some of the info. So for Project Lotus, the reason why phase 2 incorporates memory training is that when you do high-level meditation, one of the biggest symptoms of being good at meditation is that you actually lose memory. You will lose your memory if you meditate too much. Meditation is good. I want you to meditate too much, but I don't want you to lose your memory. So it's inherently important that you do at least some degree of mental memory training prior to sitting down and meditating. It's very important. So in Project Lotus, our first week, we will train people in specific memory techniques before they pursue phase 3 fully. So that for us is really important. Now, what does phase 3 cover? Phase 3 is a meditation-centric program. A lot of people know that the vagus nerve is kind of connected to mindfulness, to Kundalini, to spiritual traditions, to all kinds of interesting things. So when you stimulate the vagus nerve, when your vagus nerve is really working really effectively, you start to experience some potentially spiritual awakening, things that people would consider to be enlightenment when your vagus nerve is working. And just as we talked about, I believe, on a call a few days ago, either on last Friday or last Thursday, when we talked about dementia and Alzheimer's, this whole memory loss aspect where when you stimulate your vagus nerve, your memory gets better, and when you develop Alzheimer's, your memory gets worse. So it makes sense that by stimulating the vagus nerve to increase your memory, you find that those specific patients have none of the symptoms of Alzheimer's. You can have the signatures, you can have the genetic predisposition to develop Alzheimer's. It's not a written in stone thing. So if you are genetically predisposed to Alzheimer's dementia, you want to be stimulating your vagus nerve absolutely immediately, 100% right now. Get on that. Don't wait. That would be very dumb to wait. You're like, yeah, I have all the genetic code for Alzheimer's, but I'm not going to stimulate my vagus nerve. Would be a really dumb choice to make. Just saying. So just with awakening, there's a spectrum. So when your vagus nerve does not work, you experience disconnection from your body. When you are meditating, you develop connection with the body. So it would make sense that by stimulating the vagus nerve, you increase the connectivity between your brain and your body, the somatic body, where you feel more embodied in your own self. And you deepen into the self. And you also deepen so deep into yourself that you develop a sense of space and awareness of the self as its own thing. and you don't get lost in the concept that you are somehow separate from your body. You develop this oneness between you and your body, and then the universe as well. So those are the spectrums. So when your vagus nerve shuts down, you lose somatic awareness. You lose connection to your body. You lose the ability to relax. And that goes in that way. But when you meditate, and which is very similar to stimulating your vagus nerve, when you meditate, you go in the opposite direction. And when you go in that direction, what starts to happen is that your vagus nerve starts to increase in activity, and you feel more of this embodied sense of connection to you, to the true you. And that is a byproduct of the vagus nerve being more active, because the vagus nerve acts as the intermediary, the smart intermediary between your brain and your body. Your vagus nerve is the intermediary. It is the axis that they talk about. When doctors or practitioners talk about the gut-brain axis, they don't typically mention the vagus nerve in that. Only some of the more aware doctors and practitioners today are mentioning the vagus nerve, but very few really truly understand what the axis component means when it comes to the gut-brain axis. So super critical. It's super critical that you get these kinds of things in order and aligned. So depending on where you're at in terms of your health journey, if you are super healthy and optimal and you already have a really in-depth meditation practice and you're looking for that next level thing for meditation, there is nothing wrong at all with incorporating technology to facilitate a deeper sense of well-being. Because if there's anything that you could do to deepen your sense of internal peace and well-being and to eliminate suffering, why would you abstain from incorporating something that could be so fundamentally life-changing? Why would you punish yourself in that way? That again, we know because of the Buddha that people do in some cases desire continual suffering. There are people who are on this planet to continually re-experience suffering. So some people are not ready in this lifetime even to go through a phase 3 type of program. But some people are committed to escaping the samsara cycle of suffering. And some of the best meditators on the planet right now, I don't hail or claim to be the world's most enlightened man. I'm not claiming anything like that. But do I meditate? Yes. And do I have access to deep levels of spiritual insight and well-being? Yes. And do I use ultrasound? Yes. To stimulate my vagus nerve? Yes. So phase 3 is just another level up from phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, which are all ultrasound-enabled forms of human enhancement. It's all just a level of enhancing the human body and function, mind, body, and spirit. And I do believe that the human body has something considered to be a spirit or an essence or something like that. Not in a religious context. I'm not saying this is this is one discipline of thinking. It's just a sense that I have that the body has something in it that is transcendent from the body in a way. I don't believe that we're just a bunch of goo and tissue and ones and zeros. I think that there's definitely something more complex going on in our brain and our body and our vagus nerve than meets the eye. And I think that there are people, maybe intentionally, pulling the wool over our eyes for a specific purpose. That, I worked in academia for quite some time, and you'll find that they'll continue to push their theory without ever letting you on that there's an alternative theory, even though that alternative theory could make more sense in the grand scheme of what we know today. But academics have a really hard time with sharing from a broad subset of ideas. So you're typically not going to find that academics are going to let on that there could actually be some evidence that shows that your brain is a quantum computer and that your vagus nerve is actually alive. Your vagus nerve is actually a living, breathing, functioning, thinking, feeling creature and entity inside of your body right now. A lot of academics kind of hold back from that position, and that's unfortunate. And I do think that people pay a price for seeing the vagus nerve as some kind of, oh, it's just this dumb ones and zero computer. That's the same mistake that doctors made with the brain. Doctors and neuroscientists used to believe that a neuron was a cell that you got when you were born, and that you developed when you were in your teens, and then as soon as one brain cell dies, it's gone forever, and that there's no such thing as neuroplasticity, that neurons can't regrow or anything like that. And the guy who systematically showed that was possible, guess what they did to him? They tried to cancel him. The scientist who discovered that the brain is neuroplastic, meaning it can regrow connections, and it's very versatile, his entire academic circle ostracized the guy because what it meant for their research was that they had wasted millions of dollars in studying the brain according to a specific model of what they believed was true. And so academics are not going to accept this. So if you're sitting around on your butt hoping and waiting for CNN to finally cover this, don't hold your breath, folks. This is not going to be on MSNBC anytime soon. I can assure you of that. You're not going to see whatever her name is. Who's the host on MSNBC? I have no idea. Whatever. I clearly am not a big TV watcher in that context. Somebody on MSNBC. They're not going to say, okay, fold their paper. Okay, great news. Today we have some breaking news that we've discovered that you can actually repair your brain and you can repair your vagus nerve. That's just not in the books. Not for any time soon. So for the time being, what you are mostly going to be led into is to make a purchasing decision for a single electrical stimulator device that goes on your ear or on your neck and isn't going to teach you at all about the natural progression that someone goes on when they start to stimulate their vagus nerve. Because if it's right, if what we're all saying is true, that the vagus nerve is this important for your health and your mind, then if we start going in there and tinkering with it and changing your vagus nerve, then the version of you 6 months from now is going to be different. It's going to be a different type of person. But none of these devices are giving you any information about what type of personality changes to expect in 6 months from using a VNS device. And as you upgrade your, again, if you are promoted at work, would it be helpful to maybe get a book or a course or invest in training or invest in something to learn a little bit more about, hey, I'm in a higher level of leadership in an organization. My skill sets have developed. I should probably learn a little bit more about what this level of living is about, right? If you're broke, then you're not looking at, tax schemes. If you're making $20 million a year, you're looking at tax schemes. So, but you could get into a lot of trouble if you're making more money and you're not looking at investment strategies. All of these devices, these VNS devices on the market today are just like, yeah, just use it. Good luck. Have fun. And yeah, I'll just check in with you sometime. That's not not correct. That's not appropriate. That's definitely not how I think it should work. So what's really at stake here is that you follow a very specific progression of stimulating your vagus nerve, incorporating more heightened awareness of your body, heightened skill set development. You need to develop some key skills as you stimulate your vagus nerve. Because if you enhance neuroplasticity from day one of the phase 1 program, and then I said to you, yeah, you know what? Your brain is more neuroplastic. All you need to do right now is basically sit back and just consume as much Netflix as you possibly can, girl. Okay, hun? Just eat some junk food, stimulate your vagus nerve, you're gonna be fine. No, because what you've done is you've hooked up a neuroplastic brain to potentially bad habits or no good habits, potentially, which I think is what's happening. I actually do believe that more likely than not, and am I wrong to guess this? Given if you look around, if you just take a cursory glance at America today, do Americans on a whole tend to make good health decisions or not so good health decisions? You know, are people gaining weight? Are people sinking 10 hours a day into watching TikTok videos? On average, the vast direction of where human American consciousness is going is not great. And I'm not willing to sit around and let and oversee people make those poor choices in their mental and physical health. So what we do in phase 1 is I'll teach you exercise, neck strengthening, neck mobilization, how to strengthen your vagus nerve, how to stimulate your vagus nerve through technology, through breath, through meditation, through other means, how to eat properly, how to supplement properly for your vagus nerve, and how to think. You know, we're going to retrain your brain in phase 1. We're going to literally do in phase 1 with technology what some of these other DNRS programs and Gupta and brain retraining only attempt to do minus the actual stimulator. So if I'm telling you that vagus nerve stimulator increases neuroplasticity so you can learn and change your brain faster, and you go, yeah, I'm stressed, I'm sick, I'm chronically ill, I'm going to sign up for a brain retraining program, but I'm not going to use anything that's going to make my brain more neuroplastic. I'm going to make it so that it takes me 10 months to learn that kind of stuff. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good equation. So in our phase 1 program, we do neuro retraining programs as a part of your stimulating of your vagus nerve with ultrasound, as well as exercise, diet, nutrition, and stimulation. So we just cover a broad array of subjects because I want your brain to be way better after 4 months in the phase 1 program. And we will be doing a free event this week called the 5-day challenge. So if you do want to join the 5-day challenge, which is free, you can do that here. So on the 5-day challenge, we'll be showing off the ultrasound, showing you the protocols, showing you how it works. And we have a live video event this Wednesday, starting this week. So if you want to learn about this, that's a great way to do it. It's like, you know, it's the vagus nerve summer kickoff extravaganza. And you're going to learn all about your vagus nerve and how to go into the summer ready to kick some butt, girl. Yeah, girl boss. So you can register there. It's free to join. We'll host that in a separate Facebook group called the Vagus Nerve Stimulation and Repair Challenge. And so I hope to see you there. Lots of people have registered, so it's going to be a very big event, but it won't affect your experience. Definitely sign up for that. So let's focus in on phase 3 a little bit further, because I know some people watching have already signed up for phase 3, and if you have, that's fantastic. And I want this portion of the video to kind of represent a little bit about what they should be doing and expecting in anticipation of the beginning of phase 3. So we're going to talk about phase 3 and what meditation and awakening are and how that relates to the vagus nerve and what they're going to do in the phase 3 program. So Gotta stay hydrated, folks. Hydration, especially in the summer when it's getting hotter, very important. So, okay, so for phase 3. All right, so for phase 3, this is a very important progression in the journey of you and your vagus nerve. So what is going to be covered in the phase 3 coaching program is the incorporation of a few specific tools to facilitate your potential spiritual awakening. And we're not that far off by claiming that your vagus nerve has a lot to do with your ability to access deeper levels of spiritual awareness and spiritual insight. So that is what we're going to show up for in phase 3 of the vagus nerve stimulation repair program. So how phase 3 is rolled out is that phase 3 is a 12-week mindfulness meditation program that uses ultrasound vagus nerve stimulation through a special custom only available to phase 3 participant devices that goes right here on your concha. So it's a very miniaturized ultrasound that fits in your ear like an AirPod, and then you put it here and it stimulates your vagus nerve, and you're going to pretty much immediately drop into this very deep sense of like a very deep relaxation feeling. So that's the feeling that you're going to drop into. From that feeling, it's almost going to be like you've already been meditating for an entire hour, like a really deep meditation for an hour, but just after 5 minutes of stimulation. And then what's going to be provided to you every Monday for the phase 3 program is a guided audio meditation that you're going to have there on your phone, your laptop, or otherwise, and you're going to play that audio every single day of that week. So from Monday to Sunday. Now, ideally, you'll do it every day. Minimum 3 to 4 to 5 days per week. We would prefer you to do that. Anytime it comes to stimulating the vagus nerve, the more consistent you're going to be, way better. Way, way better than scattered usage, different times of the day. For phase 3, which is a little bit different than what we do in phase 1, is that phase 3 is going to be ultrasound VNS of the ear with the approved device we use in the morning. So right when you wake up, usually I would suggest around, if you're able to, 6 a.m. 6 a.m. in the morning is about the right time. That's for me, in my experience, is about the right time to start stimulating your vagus nerve and to sit down and meditate, and to do either HRV paced breathing, and we'll talk about that a little bit in a video next week, most likely, or to meditate. And so in this case, in this program, we're going to be teaching you exactly how to meditate. So you're going to meditate for anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes, but it's going to feel like in that moment that you meditated for an entire hour or longer after just 5 to 10 minutes of sitting and meditating. And the reason you're going to feel that full hour of benefit, like really deep relaxation, that deep sense of well-being in your body, and that kind of awakening feeling emerging, the 1,000-petal lotus kind of feeling, where you're really connecting through all of your chakras. Your nadis are connected. All 108 of them are firing and wiring together. So you're going to be in that state. You're going to take off the headset. You're going to go on with your day. You're going to continue to have a normal day. Phase 3 is not going to over-encompass your whole day in existence. Phase 3 but will become a very integral part of your health journey. And what you learn in phase 3, and as you get to keep the ultrasound device forever, you will start to develop this deep habit of meditation that you enjoy going back to. You'll always know what it's like to come back to a sense of home. What is your home world for you? That's what we're teaching in phase 3. So it's a very beautiful experience. It's a very relaxing experience, but it's not for everybody watching. Some people watching are like, look, Sterling, I'm dealing with Lyme disease. I'm dealing with COVID. I'm dealing with vaccine injury. I have a lot of clients who are at that early stage of their health, and they don't have a practice of meditation or anything like that. And so if you don't have that practice, you're not ready for that practice, again, I'm not, think of it like this. If you're going to go to Harvard, you don't sign up for senior year classes on your first go. You sign up for freshman year classes. So if you're at a freshman level, take a freshman class. Absolutely. So if you're still dealing with some of the pretty severe symptoms of illness, bed issues, brain fog, then absolutely get started with phase 1, because eventually you'll be able to roll out into phase 2 and phase 3, no problem. But don't try to do all things all at once. That's not a good recipe for success at all. So for the people who are allowing into phase 3 are folks that we've already worked with through phase 1, to some degree through a little bit of phase 2, and now they're on to phase 3. So those people who've signed up already, which we're already, almost at capacity for phase 3, we don't have many spots left. And again, this video is not for me to convince new people to the Facebook group or anything like that to join phase 3. In fact, I would prefer, if somebody's watching this and you don't know who I am, you've never taken a class with me or anything like that, don't sign up for phase 3. I'll refund you. You'll get your money back, and we'll, say, hey, maybe it would be good for you to sign up for phase 1 instead, since that's an area that you want to work on. But we would have to talk for that first. Schedule a 10-minute call. If you really do believe that you're like, no, I am really good at meditation. I'm a really good level of health, which of course there's going to be many of you like that here in the Facebook group. This group doesn't just cater to the sickest of sick. It caters to people who are interested in the vagus nerve and how you're able to stimulate it and repair it. That's who this group is for. People who are interested in that. You'll notice I don't let people post like, oh my God, I'm having a medical emergency. What do I do? What do I do? Those kind of posts that's not what this group is about. It's not providing like emergency room care. We're really sitting here to be kind of a long-term project, a long-term institution of health and wellness. So yeah, that's just generally kind of an overview of what phase 3 is really about. So hopefully that's kind of a helpful cap on this. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is what is meditation and what is awakening. So I'm going to take a little sip. Glug, glug, glug. Okay. So what is meditation and what is awakening? So first, I'll answer the question of what is awakening. The wrong way to think about awakening is that it is some place to occupy or to pass through like you've achieved a goal. So the worst way, the way that will make meditation really difficult for you, is to look at this thing called awakening, whatever that might be, as some kind of a destination to arrive to, and that there's going to be some meditation that you do where you sit down and you put your fingers together and you breathe just right and all the conditions are just perfect, and that awakening is just going to go zoom like this, and that is going to happen to you. To frame it like a destination where you're working hard to get there is only going to put that further and further and further away from you on a manifestation level. So awakening, the right way to think of awakening is that awakening is a process. It's like a verb. It's like a thing you're doing, like you walk. Walking doesn't have a destination. Walking is the thing that you do to show up for a new place. And I know that if I walk enough and if I place myself physically into different ideal locations, that eventually I'll have walked into a number of beautiful, good situations. Some will be great, some will be good, some will be not so good. But walking is awakening. So awakening is a process, and awakening is a continual system. And as long as you show up for the activities that can provide you in the system of awakening, therefore you can you can be becoming awakened right here, right now. And probably by watching this video and just by kind of tuning into the hypnotic nature of how I'm sharing this message, because all I'm doing is just really, in a sense, channeling some wisdom that I've picked up over the years. So you're really just listening to deep wisdom from the ages, okay? Just some insights into how awakening is unfolding. So right now, just by listening, you're showing up for the subject of awakening. You are in the system itself. Therefore, you are awakening right now, okay? So awakening. How do you show up for it, right? One is listening to a hypnotic type of incantations or hypnotic inductions. That can, in some ways, provide a conduit to a slicked path, a trail that you walk on. That is the awakening, okay? And the more you walk down that path, the more rich the experience can get, the better you get from a skill set perspective at whatever it is that you however you continually show up for it is how that happens. So for instance, there may be some experiences, there may be some practices that you personally have that provide the experience of awakening, of being on the system of awakening. That might be something like sitting down, cross-legged, in a lotus position, on a buckwheat pillow, outside, with a single point of focus for your eyes, and looking at it, and just simply focusing on the circular nature of your breath. That would be considered a breath-focused form of meditation. That there's a number of disciplines that do that. Now, as you do it, when you first do it, you might feel a little uncomfortable, but that's actually ideal. You'll typically find people that have meditated for years get kind of bored because they think they've gotten to become an expert. The best advice given to those 3-year meditators that, every beginner looks up to and says, oh my gosh, I wish I could be just as good as them. Actually, they wish they could be as good as you, because by being a beginner in meditation, you are experiencing that ebb and flow between conscious thinking and awakening, which is that unfolding of the present moment, which is a beautiful way to experience reality. But even the most advanced meditators enthrall and look back for those beginner moments. So they'll typically say, once you've done 2, 3, 4, 5 years of meditation, it is so healthy, it is so important to return back to what's called the beginner's mind. And I'm sure everybody of you watching have heard that term before. That's what that means. To meditate as if you were a beginner again. So for those who are just starting meditation, who are just starting on the phase 3 program, you're in week 1, week 2, you're like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm doing this right. That's exactly the point. It's not if you're doing it right, it's that you're showing up for it. That is the key thing here. The trail towards enlightenment. And again, be careful about considering enlightenment as a destination place. It's not a destination. It is that you are in it. You are operating from within a state of awakening, a state of enlightenment in a time that is commensurate with your ability to experience it. So as you get better of a skill set, your brain will have access to more levels of consciousness that can then expand and experience the present moment in a richer way. So that's that's the skill set. Like playing tennis is a system. If I continuously go to the tennis court with tennis balls and a tennis racket, and I ask people, hey, do you want to play a game? Or I hit the ball against the wall, over the years and years and years, I'm going to get better, right? Hopefully, ideally, you'll get better at playing tennis. Some people have pursued that where they're playing at the French Open. They're playing professional tennis. And so that is a level of enjoyment that only someone at that high level could get. So we want to have that deep respect for beginner mind meditation. When you meditate, savor it. If you're just starting meditation, if it's the first time that you've ever meditated, savor that experience like the first time you ever had a marshmallow, or the first time as a baby you had candy, or the first time you saw a field of flowers, the first time you ever saw a pet goat and you got to pet it. These are the beginner moments that you need to savor. So be thankful that you are a beginner in something if it's meditation. And don't look at it as some kind of like, oh, I'm not doing this right, I must be failing. That's absolutely the, non-ideal place to do. It's not. It's a non-ideal way to think about this. We're just talking about literally meditation is about kind of showing up to that beginner's mind, because the biggest thing that catches people, especially when they're in 4, 5, 6 years of meditation, is that they will think, because meditation, yes, in a way, we are trying to come back to the present moment, and the machinery in your brain that can operate in the present moment isn't thinking about, I wonder if that person's thinking about me. What do I have to do later today? Oh, I forgot to make that phone call. Ooh, there's that bill I need to pay. Ooh, I want to try the new chalupa, like Burger Donald's, or whatever. Like, there's a part of your brain that is going to be on constant chatter when you meditate that we're trying to not access so much. So good meditation is about kind of quieting that part of the brain and focusing on that quietude, that stillness of the mind. So that is where we're trying to go. And a beginner, you're going to fluctuate between the two. The problem, though, with a 10-year meditator is that their thinking brain, that was talking about, ooh, I wonder what the Kim Kardashians are up to, or whatever kind of mind control stuff has been plopped into your brain. They're not going to think about that anymore, but their brain, their thinking mind, is going to start talking to them, telling them how good they are at meditation, how much better they are at meditation than other people. And they're going to almost be under a spell. Your mind will upgrade its ability to trick you, to tell you to think that you're not thinking, even though you're fully in thought. That's one of the risks of, not a risk, but it's kind of like, hey, you're going to go down this path. Here are some things to look out for as you go. You're going to learn some things. You're going to encounter some new realities. And when you notice those, now you know Sterling told you. Sterling warned you about those things. And what you do in those cases is, still meditation fundamentally is about returning back to the present moment. So even though your mind, as an experienced multi-year meditator, might be like, you're doing so good. I'm so proud of you. You're so much better than those other people because they don't meditate. You do. You're better. And that's what your brain is going to start telling you. And you go, oh, that's thinking. Let's return back to the present moment again. Let's just focus on the fundamentals. That's when it's going to become important to go, what was it like to be a beginner at this again? Don't forget these moments. This is important to experience fully. The more that you get frustrated, the more you let that frustration build into, oh, I should just give up, the more you're letting that brain win. And so you are going to be in a kind of a game, a ping pong game, maybe a tennis game between the thinking mind and the present moment awareness. And so part of the reason why people don't ever really experience full awakening, they don't get liftoff, is because they can't allow themselves to not think. And they think they have to do it perfectly. The benefit with ultrasound in the ear, vagus nerve stimulation, UltraVNS in the ear through phase 1, through phase 3 actually, is that it really does contribute to the quieting of that mind and allowing your full-fledged entity, your fully fledged you, that pure you that exists in that childlike state of experiencing without judgment or shame or guilt or any of these emotions or pride or any of this stuff. You just are there. And so stimulating your vagus nerve absolutely does contribute to this. And I've had a number of experiences and encounters with ultrasound stimulation of the vagus nerve throughout many years of working in this field. One of the most notable was I was visiting a friend in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was doing research with the Army and developing these large-scale ultrasound systems that fit in like the transducer, the part that the speaker, the ultrasound speaker that puts out such high-frequency ultrasound that you can't hear it, but it condenses it down into a beam, like a specific, very sharp, not a sharp, but like a laser pointer. And you can place that on your neck, or you could put it on your head, and you can stimulate and elicit activity like in certain nerves like that. But with ultrasound, there's no muscle contraction. Whereas with electrical stimulation, if you try to pump that much power into your neck to experience that awakening state, you would be like that. You would be in so much pain because all the muscles it'd be like electroshock therapy with electrical stimulation. So I don't think that we're I don't think that there's ever going to be a phase 3 program for awakening that incorporates electrical stimulation of the vagus nerve. So if you choose that journey, just know that it has some pretty abrupt dead ends. That's why there's no such thing as an electrical phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3 program. Whereas there is, and that's possible with ultrasound, which is what we, check the chat for all the information on that. For most of you, I would recommend you do phase 1. But anyway, getting back to meditation is really truly about that beginner's mind and savoring this time. And the experiences that I've had with ultrasound, where I had that big device on the neck, and you can just selectively stimulate the vagus nerve just right here. You have to know how to target it. I know anatomically where it is very well. So you place it right here, and it hits the vagus nerve, and it provides this almost immediate, it removes that chatter right from your brain. The chatter is still, you still have the capability to think. You could drive a car if you needed to. You could be effective, but it allows you, it puts you in that state of mind where you're like, oh my God. And you're not thinking in your head, oh, this is what those spiritual traditions were talking about. Because again, that's thinking. That's still thinking. Even if you feel good, but you have a narrative storytelling about what's happening. Oh, wow, I feel so relaxed. I feel so good. That's actually to be avoided. In phase 3, more advanced forms of vagus nerve stimulation are learn how to experience that feeling without having to create the narrative story around it. Because that's called symbolic awareness. It's symbolic stranglehold. It's a symbolic juxtaposition or contextualization between you and where you are, constantly having to be like, oh, I'm a man, I'm wearing a hat, I'm sitting here in my house. It's just this constant, that's kind of what the thinking brain is. Oh, how do I stack up versus that person? How do I stack up versus that person? Do I have more money than my neighbor? Is my car nicer? That's that same mechanism of symbolic kind of pinging, symbolic hierarchy creation of where's my status. It's that same thing when you are doing something good. So phase 3 is about unlearning some of those deeply embedded mechanisms. Whereas most people will spend literally 10, 20, 40 years of consistent just meditation just to be able to get to that place to unlearn that constant inner judgmental stacking feature. But when you stimulate the vagus nerve, that constant nagging thought, that internal dialogue is gone. It's just like, and then you're there. You're just in it. You're experiencing sound, the present moment. You're there. So that's what it's about. You having the ability to do that for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, 27 minutes a day, probably, is fantastic. So that is, and again, I'm not going to sit here and say, guys, the goal here is, because that would go against everything that I just told you. It would literally undo all of the stuff that I just told you. There is no goal here. That's the thing that gets people caught up in meditation. Is there, well, what's the goal? What's the aim? What am I trying to get out of this? It's like you're not trying to get something out of it. That's, if you try to get something out of it, there's going to be more resistance to it, because you might place so much importance on the getting that your brain creates that resistance to getting it. So that's another spiritual, philosophical lesson. But for right now, for meditation's purposes, you're just trying and showing up for the practice of meditation while stimulating your vagus nerve with the in-ear ultrasound stimulator. So that's all. That's it. That's how we start. That will probably be something that you persist with for a few months to get good at it. Nothing happens in a split second, right? It's like when they talk about, how did you become an overnight success? It's like, oh, I worked for 12 years to become an overnight success. Okay. So it's the same kind of thing. We're going to work at this. We're going to show up for it. But lower the importance of all of this and just lower the expectations. You'll have a way, way more successful experience and a more fun experience if you do that too. So anyway, that's something to keep in mind when we're trying to define what awakening is and meditation. It's a system and a skill set. Meditation is the skill set. Awakening is the system that you show up for. And your reason for doing this is your own. You get to decide, what is the reason you want to do this? Why do you want to show up for this? Is it because the benefits it has for your emotional health, of stress reduction? It makes you less triggerable. It makes you happier long term. There's so many potential reasons, but I want to encourage you, think through, why is this important for you? Come up with some of those reasons. This is important for your family, for your health, for your career. What is it? And add as many of them as you can onto a piece of paper. So anyway, that's it. Awakening, meditation, lesson. All right, cool. So that's super fun. So type, for y'all watching, I want you to type 3 in the chat if you're like, damn, this sounds cool. If you got in some way, shape, or form what we're really talking about here. If you follow me, if you're catching what I'm putting down, put a 3 in the chat so I can know if you're following. Because again, it really is a set of systems that we're approaching here, not a goal. Awakening is not a destination that you're going to wake up in. You don't awaken to that. Good. So Charlotte, thank you. So some of it makes sense so far. That's fantastic. And yeah, Charlene, I mean, absolutely, in some way, shape, or form, I absolutely do hope to see you to go through phase 3 at some stage in your health journey. For right now, of course, we're sticking with phase 1, and same thing with TK as well. Good. TK, she's got a big heart there. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, same thing with you, TK. I mean, it's ideal because we want to see you at a stage where phase 3 becomes the next obvious step. And if that's the next obvious step, then that means like your health must be doing so much better, right? And so again, I think this is how vagus nerve stimulation work should happen, but it doesn't. And honestly, unless I'm out there preaching this, it's just not going to happen. And so it is what it is. Again, I wake up in the morning, I show up for it again and again. I take the beginner's mind. That's why I do these live videos now. I'm just like, all right, from how do you take someone from 0 to 1 to just bring awareness that they have a vagus nerve and that there's something that they can do with it. That's it. And if I got to go down to the basics, you have something called the vagus nerve. I will do it. Whatever it takes to make this happen, I will do it. Okay? I think it's that important for people. So wonderful. Well, I'm going to end it here for the YouTubers. Thanks for YouTuber audience for watching. We're going to end you there. And then for Facebook, for one last hurrah,